Before we get into the 6 points for today, let me ask you this question. Do you have a retirement vision for yourself? Is it more time on the beach? But actually, if you look at the beach these days, you don't see that many retirees. Do you see yourself doing more volunteer work? Do you see yourself being more religious? Or do you see yourself spending more time with grandkids? A retirement vision really helps you understand and interpret your own life in retirement years because the time is still valuable. Today, this discussion, I can help you understand the financial numbers and what you need to prepare to achieve that retirement vision that you have. And I have 6 key points for today. So if this topic interests you, continue watching on. Hi guys, welcome back. Now the first thing you need to do is to decide where you want to spend your energy at. This ties in very closely with the retirement vision itself. This is actually a survey on the Canadians. 90% of people don't have in mind what they're going to do in retirement. I believe this survey results applies to retirees all over the world. You need to decide for yourself whether you want to spend more time with your families, because that is still a very important relationship you should treasure. Or you want to spend more time with friends, big group of friends. Go into group cycling, go into group Zumba, or even play badminton. I play badminton, and within our group, we have some players who are very good, and yet they are above the age of 60, so they actually beat me in the game itself. And the key part of deciding where to spend your energy is to also communicate that with your family and your spouse. Then the next part for that is restart building relationships and start networking towards that vision. Now, if you are lacking friends in a big group, then you can check out websites like this, meetup.com, whereby you can get to know new people. Because relationships need time to build. Friendships need time to build. You can't rush into it. And before you get to retirement, maybe you start laying this groundwork, and when you get to retirement, it's much easier. The second thing you need to do is to start organizing your finances. Now in point 1, we talked about where you could potentially spend that energy. And certain hobbies require you to expense out your savings. I play badminton. It's not too expensive a sport. It's just rackets, shuttlecock, and shoes. But if you're into golfing, then you should know that it's probably a lot more costly on a month-to-month basis. So knowing how much cash you have in a bank account gives you a good sensing where you're at, whether you can sustain that hobby or not. Now, if you're close to retiring, you should know that most likely you have quite a few accounts all over the place. Fixed deposits, plans and stuff. Start organizing them. Start also looking at what kind of loans you have. Really start taking measurements when you can potentially pay them off. Start knowing where your investments really lie. Do you have stocks? Do you have properties? Do you have things that you have not revisited in a long while and they are kind of somewhere in that cupboard? Then with that done, draw down to start knowing your current expenses. Do a budget. Right now, how much you're spending on groceries, how much you're spending on hobbies, because that is the clearest indication on what you might need in your retirement years. Now there's a common finding, 70% of what you're spending right now would be what you're actually spending in terms of retirement. So that number, it could possibly be a good anchor as to how much or how far away you are from your desired retirement lifestyle. Then also know your pension plan. In Singapore, it's CPF. Know how much you have inside CPF. Check the potential cash flow that you can get, and that's quite simple. You can always visit one of the counter offices or check it online. The third thing to know is about your insurance. Now, one of the biggest drains to retirees' cash savings pot is actually illnesses and healthcare costs. Now, healthcare costs in Singapore is not too expensive, especially if you're going to government hospitals, but do be very sure what kind of coverage you actually purchase for yourself. Whether the private medical insurance can allow you the desired treatment that you need, because in the older years, it's proven that claims are going to be more common, correct? And illnesses take longer to resolve. And typically, chronic illnesses start to build at an older age. So be very sure about your health insurance. Then the next part is know about personal accident insurance. Personal accident insurance are plans that cover for injuries. Maybe I can share with you a personal story. My own mom got into a fall. And when you are in the older age, you realize that your reflexes are not that good, correct? You tend to fall on your face. You can get fractures, nosebleeds, scars quite easily from a simple fall that you could break when you're in the prime of your fitness. So personal accident insurance are not expensive at all. There are actually some plans that are designed for elderly. Be familiar with them because many of them require you to purchase before the age of 65. The fourth thing to know is how you're going to pay off your remaining loans. Now, just now I suggested looking at all the loans that you have. Do you have renovation loans, car loans? These are actually bad debts to take on. Hopefully, it's been all cleared already. If not, figure a way to pay it off quickly, because that is actually draining away your cash flow itself. Now, what about for mortgage? Mortgage usually is a longer term loan that you have. It could jolly well last until your age of 65. So if you are unable to support that loan, I've also seen before retirees transfer part of the house or actually bring in a child into the mortgage itself. Consider if that is necessary, because a mortgage, you don't want to default on it and lose the roof that you are staying in. And right now there's actually a new solution market by DBS Bank, which is actually a mortgage reversal loan. This is actually applicable only for private properties, and the whole idea is to tie this reverse mortgage loan to the CPF LIFE itself. Now, if you're not in Singapore, maybe this portion is something quite foreign, but there's definitely some reverse mortgage ideas in your country. But in Singapore, DBS has created this very special program. And looking at this case study, you realize that Mr. and Mrs. Lee in this scenario require 1,300 per month for their own expenses, but CPF LIFE is not paying that amount. There is a shortfall. So what happens? They determine together with CPF how much is needed to top up into the CPF LIFE itself to get that desired 1,300 per month, and that exact amount is actually done out as a reverse mortgage from their property itself. And when they reach their final days, then this loan will eventually be paid off by the sale of the property itself, and that allows them to still stay in the house they're staying and yet consume some cash flow from that house itself. The fifth point is to actually optimize the cash you have on hand. Now, cash, if it's idling in bank accounts, they actually derive a very low interest rate, correct? So what can you get that cash invested into? In Singapore, I've actually showed before this particular tutorial, Syfe Cash Plus. And within it, you can, through this platform, invest in a very low risk bond funds, have it managed by Syfe and get certain levels of return. It's much better than to have the cash idling inside it. And the risk profile actually suits someone that's pretty conservative. Do note also that it is non-guaranteed returns. But if you want guarantee, then the simplest solution is to find ways you can still contribute back to your CPF. In Singapore, CPF LIFE pays out at the age of 65. You can even choose to defer the amounts that you're going to get from 65 all the way to the age of 70. If at that point of time you have some other sources of cash flow. Defer it, you can actually build up the amounts you can get, and that could help you in your later years. And last but not least, you can also consider annuity plans. Annuity plans don't provide a big amount of real return, but the key part about annuity plans is they provide you a very steady, fast-free, idiot-proof cash flow in your retirement years. This cash flow has certain portions guaranteed to it and does not require you to make active decisions, and some of them can actually be a legacy tool that you have, which means while you consume cash flows during your living years, at the point of passing, they actually have a bequest amount, a death benefit amount that can be paid to your next generation. So it solves multiple issues, especially in terms of retirement cash flow as well as estate planning. Now, if you have benefited, smash your like button because it's taken our team hours to prepare this presentation for you. And without further ado, let me introduce you to the 6th point that you need to do before retiring, and that's to actually tidy up your stock portfolio. Now, I've seen many retiree clients and the stock portfolio list is long. There are at least 30, 40 stocks within the whole list itself. And it's not easy to manage a list that's that long. In your retirement years, you may not be able to keep track of each and every one of them. So my suggestion as you approach retirement is to shorten that list of investments. No doubt, some of them are not profitable, but when it comes to preserving your wealth, perhaps having a shorter list of stocks or have it diversified with funds is a much simpler approach. Now, equities are important to your retirement because they provide you a dividend income. And dividend income is really the only passive income that does not require you to do any work. If it's rental income in properties, you have to get an agent to get it marketed out for rental. But dividends from stocks and equity funds are really the most fast-free passive income source. And if you look in terms of long-term, equity dividends have been inflation-proof. They are proven to grow with time, especially if you invest in the right companies. So if you're keen to find out more on passive income, I've actually this previous tutorial I've done how I actually built $5,000 worth of passive income right now. And a key component of it is actually the income I get from equity investments. So if you haven't seen that video before, let me invite you there as I sign off from here. Take care and goodbye.